Did you know that a famous scene from This Is Spinal Tap inspired a major plot point in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books? Curious to know what it is? Keep watching. Most casual fans of the band don't realize this, but Spinal Tap was actually based on a real-life English rock band. In 2017, at the AV Club Festival, Christopher Guest talked about the origins of the band during a question-and-answer segment with fans. He humorously recalled a story in 1974 when he was checking into a hotel in Los Angeles, and in front of him was an English rock band arguing amongst themselves about lost equipment. The manager asked the bass player where his instrument was, and the oblivious bassist responded by saying he didn't know. A hilarious back and forth ensued, with the manager and musician arguing about where the bass was for a full 15 minutes. The incident crystallized in Guest's mind and went on to inspire Spinal Tap a decade later. He called it the happiest moment of his life, apart from the first time he met his wife. Also during the interview, Guest said that many people had come up to him over the years, claiming to know who Spinal Tap was based on, but they were all wrong. The name of the actual English rock band is a mystery, as Guest never revealed who they were, if he ever even knew himself. This Is Spinal Tap was released in theaters in 1984, but the band's origins actually began years earlier in a sketch comedy show created by Rob Reiner.
And now, from England, have mercy, you gonna love them to death, Spinal Tap!
According to actor and creator Michael McKean, in This Is Spinal Tap, the official companion, Spinal Tap was created by McKean, Reiner, Christopher Guest, and Harry Shearer, as a sketch for Reiner's show, The TV Show. Previously, McKean and Guest had worked together on a similar sketch involving heavy metal rockers, and that was how McKean became involved in Spinal Tap. They chose the name Spinal Tap because it was suitably duff. In the sketch, Spinal Tap parodied a popular radio show known as Midnight Special that was hosted by famous DJ Wolfman Jack. They wrote a fake song, Rock and Roll Nightmare, which they also performed. The 1979 sketch also featured musician Loudon Wainwright III on keyboards, though he would not be in the subsequent film. A little over a year after the sketch aired, Reiner was trying to move from television into feature films, and he decided on Spinal Tap as his first major motion picture. While it would be a stretch to call it method acting, the members of Spinal Tap are famous for remaining in character whenever they reunite as a band. According to Christopher Guest in This Is Spinal Tap, the official companion, the band has gone to lengths to remain in character over the years. He said the band had participated in over 500 interviews and spent hundreds and hundreds of hours in motel and hotel rooms, in full costume, and in character. Guest even said that when fans come to the concerts, they act as if they're taking part in the film. Groupies would even come backstage looking to meet the band members, not the actors. Not only do the band members play along in interviews and skits, but other famous rock stars reference the band from time to time. Gene Simmons has been known to joke about having an affair with tap guitar player Nigel Tufnell, played by Guest, and Icelandic singer Björk referenced the movie during an interview talking about her hectic lifestyle. In 2011, fans of the movie created Nigel Tufnell Day to coincide with the date 11/11/11, a reference to the famous scene in the movie where Tufnell shows his amp's volume knobs going up to 11 rather than the standard 10.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
The antics and actions of This Is Spinal Tap might seem too outrageous to be true, but Harry Shearer has claimed that many of the scenes were actually based directly on real-life events. In the book Best in Show, the films of Christopher Guest and company, Shearer elaborated on the real-life inspiration for several of the movie's most famous scenes. For instance, the scene at the Air Force Base, featuring Fred Willard as an Air Force lieutenant, was based on an experience the keyboard player had a few years prior. Additionally, the famous incident in the movie when bassist Derek Smalls became trapped in a pod on stage was also taken from a real-life event involving Screamin' Jay Hawkins at the Apollo Theater in 1956. In 1984, as part of the promotion for This Is Spinal Tap, Harry Shearer, Michael McKean, and Christopher Guest all appeared on the sketch comedy show Saturday Night Live in a skit about the band. The bit was centered around an interview with the band by the weekly host Barry Bostwick. The band claimed it was the first television performance they had been invited to since 1968, and they humorously argued amongst themselves about various trivial matters. The band compared themselves with Mozart because of their insistence on playing as loud as possible.
And his mum would go, Mozart, Mozart, don't play loud. But he would anyway.
The band also served as the musical guest for the night, performing a song from the movie. Both Guest and Shearer were able to parlay their success with Spinal Tap into season-long stints as not ready for primetime players on SNL. While on the show, they worked with other This Is Spinal Tap alumni like McKean and Billy Crystal on several sketches. One of their most famous sketches involved another fake documentary, this time about male synchronized swimming. Most fans of the movie are familiar with their fictional album Smell the Glove, featuring an all-black cover. But the band has also released 3 real albums full of actual material. The fictional discography of Spinal Tap originally spanned from 1967 to 1983 and featured 15 albums, starting with Spinal Tap Sings Listen to the Flower People and Other Favorites, and ending with Smell the Glove. None of these albums were ever actually released, but they were all mentioned in the movie. Since the release of the movie, the band has recorded and released 3 more albums full of real songs. In 1984, they released the soundtrack to the movie, which featured 11 songs featured in the film. In 1992, they reunited to release Break Like the Wind, which featured all new material. In 2009, the band released Back from the Dead, which featured a mix of new and re-recorded material. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly about the release of Back from the Dead, Christopher Guest, in character as Nigel Tufnell, talked about the challenges of recording the material again, joking that the previous records had not stood the test of time. While the band released new albums in 1992 and 2009 as Spinal Tap, they have actually reunited at least 6 separate times since the movie was released in 1984.
We have returned.
Their first reunion took place in 1992, when they released Break Like the Wind, and they subsequently went on a short tour afterwards. In 2011, Michael McKean, Christopher Guest, and Harry Shearer reunited for another short tour, which featured a performance at Carnegie Hall in New York City. The band reunited in 2007 with director Rob Reiner for another series of concerts and made a short video. In 2009, as part of their 25th anniversary, Spinal Tap released Back from the Dead and went on a world tour. However, in true Spinal Tap fashion, the world tour turned out to be a one-night stand at Wembley Stadium in London. They again reunited in 2019 on their 35th anniversary at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York. They attended a screening of the film and had a short question and answer session. And they even performed a small acoustic set of Spinal Tap songs. Their most recent reunion took place in 2020 and was virtual due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The band took part in a benefit for the Democratic Party in Pennsylvania. As part of the promotion for their new album Break Like the Wind, Spinal Tap appeared in the 1992 episode of The Simpsons entitled The Otto Show. In the episode, Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer all do the voiceovers for animated versions of their Spinal Tap characters. The plot of the episode revolves around a Spinal Tap concert occurring in Springfield that several of the characters attend. The band performed the song Break Like the Wind from their recently released album and parodied the movie with several onstage mishaps. It might sound like a stretch at first, but This Is Spinal Tap actually helped inspire one of the most crucial plot points of the Harry Potter series. One of the gags from the Spinal Tap movie is the constant deaths of their fictional drummers. According to J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, this actually inspired her to replace the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher each year at Hogwarts. In 2018, Rowling responded to a tweet and confirmed the connection between Spinal Tap and Harry Potter. In Spinal Tap, all the drummers end up dying from outlandish circumstances. Yet in Harry Potter, most of them survive. They just no longer teach at the school. The symbolism is not perfect, but it is still pretty similar and interesting. Though most fans are only familiar with the original 1984 movie This Is Spinal Tap, the band has released 3 pseudo-sequels since then. In 1992, the band released a concert DVD of their performance at the Royal Albert Hall titled The Return of Spinal Tap. Several celebrities made cameos, including actors who had played roles in the original film, like Fred Willard. In 2007, as part of their reunion to combat global warming, Rob Reiner created a short film featuring the band, commissioned by the Live Earth campaign that the band was participating in. In 2009, the band created another short film titled Stonehenge, 'Tis a Magical Place, which was released exclusively on iTunes. The short film spoofed the band's long-running gag surrounding Stonehenge and the band's adaptation of it into a song. In the short film, the band travels to Stonehenge for the first time as part of a pilgrimage. As part of their bumbling and oblivious fictional personas, the band finds ways to parody themselves over and over again. During their concerts, they often have mishaps involving their Stonehenge set. In one of the most memorable storylines from the film, the band tries to incorporate a Stonehenge-themed set into their live performances, But it ends in disaster when the pieces are comically undersized.
That tended to understate the hugeness of the object.
I really think you're just making a much too big a thing out of it.
Making a big thing out of it would have been a good idea.
Parodying this in their 1992 movie The Return of Spinal Tap, instead of the equipment being too small, as in the film, the set pieces were now too big to fit through the doors of the amphitheater, leaving the band on stage looking bewildered and signaling for non-existent equipment to be lowered down. In 2009, at the Glastonbury Festival, their performance featured an inflatable Stonehenge monument that was constantly blown around by the wind. That same year, the band released a recording of Saucy Jack, a reference to a scene from the original movie about a proposed rock musical based on the life of Jack the Ripper.
You're a naughty one, Saucy Jack.
Over the years, Spinal Tap has continued to surprise audiences with their impromptu reunions and releases. They still occupy a warm place in the heart of American music history and are regularly quoted by rock stars and musicians in their interviews. No one knows what the future will hold for Spinal Tap, but fans can only hope England's loudest band will be back again. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.